Time to catch up and go in-session postseason. One of our first visits this year is down to the Hill. Richmond Hill boys coach Stephen Peterson. Coach, thanks for going in-session postseason with us.
Oh, happy to do so.
When you look back at the season and you've had, a little time to kind of digest it a little bit, it's been like 5 weeks or so since the season came to a close, losing to Lambert in the playoffs. What sticks out in your mind about how the season went for you down there at Richmond Hill?
Yeah, I'm really happy. We went from a season of only 3 wins to over 10, so a great progression. We went from 6A to 7A as well, so a lot of movement, so a whole lot of improvement, and I was just really happy actually with the individual development of the players, and then how well they kind of picked up the whole collective. So it was kind of a win-win there. Obviously, would have liked I've gone a lot deeper in the playoffs. But we were, you talk about, small steps, and we definitely made a lot of small steps. And I'm really, really happy, with not just my starters and what they did and how they progressed, but really what I saw from my sophomores and my juniors. And so it gives me a lot of optimism for where we're going to be going next year.
You mentioned those sophomores and juniors, and I know that, when there are teams that have a lot of reliance on seniors and upperclassmen, you look at turnarounds, you look at double-digit win seasons. How was it for them, those sophomores and juniors, to grow into what you wanted to do there at Richmond Hill? How long did it take for them to get it and get to full song to where you could get to where you were looking for when it came to the season?
Yeah, I'd say we had to go basically about half. Actually, I don't know. We had a really strong start, and we had really good buy-in. That the seniors kind of, when you had as many seniors as I did, and they go all in, it kind of brought all of those other people, their sophomores and juniors, and their enthusiasm, their teamwork, kind of picked up early. So I don't have large numbers of juniors and seniors, but what I do have, I know they know what right looks like now, and that's really going to take us a long ways because I don't feel like we're going to have to go back to square zero this next season, and we've got a great start point. So when I look at just what I've got, when I look at Vincent Fowler, when you look at Sebastian Go or Evan Landon Little, they're just going to really pick up really strong. They know what right looks like. We're going to start there and then be able to elevate.
So what does right look like for Richmond Hill?
Yeah, so right, we're going to obviously have to change a little bit of how we do things with the new chemistry, but we are going to be have to be a passing team, and we're going to have to be a team that works well together. It's all about time and space. So that part is not going to change, and that's always going to be a part of what we do. But it's going to be, I see ourselves that we're going to have more speed to work with next year. And so I can see us being able to develop a little bit further with going in that direction.
How difficult was the transition to 7A and specifically Region 1 7A, considering, for those that don't know the geography, if you look at it basically from looking at a map of the state of Georgia, you're basically going from the Hill, which is just south of Savannah, all the way over to Moultrie. That's just the geography of it all. And I know that Matt Lizotte in football season, the other football, American football, basically had both of his games against the teams in Lowndes County, against Valdosta and Lowndes, in a 3-week period with a bye week in between. And I joked with him during football season. I said, so are you just going to camp out and do classes remotely there because of how your football schedule was, with everything geographically being you, Kingsland, the 2 schools in Valdosta, and over in Moultrie? I mean, what was the challenge like for you from a soccer perspective to do Region 1 7A?
Yeah, well, we did a couple of things, and it's just like football. You plan for Friday night games, so you're not affecting the academics. I'm really, I kind of laugh, but when you look at soccer, especially, and you look at IQ, soccer intelligence, I think there's definitely a direct link to overall IQ, because we had the highest GPA at our school for any sports team. So there's definitely, I think, a correlation with soccer for sure. So I didn't want to affect their students first and then athletes second. So we did not want to mess with that. But yeah, it was, especially for the competition, it was challenging. But I would say it set it up well when your guys get used to traveling 3.5 hours, because that's exactly what we had to do when we went to Atlanta. So I would say, if nothing else, there's a pretty good prequel to what we're going to have to do in the playoffs.
How difficult was it for you to fill out your schedule with non-region games and such? I mean, if you end up going any more east, you're probably playing Nassau High in the Bahamas. I mean, that's usually what we're talking about here. For you, with 17A being what it is, how difficult was it to fill in your schedule so you could feel like you were going to be ready for region play, ready for travel, ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, that's a really good one, because there are some pockets of soccer within an hour of here. But you're really talking about having to go down to private schools, 3A, 4A, a couple of 5As. We had a couple of people with 6As, but it was interesting how this went, in that 6As, they have so many people in that region, so many competitors. You play twice, you don't have any non-region games left. So I actually had to stretch into South Carolina a good bit, and they do have some great soccer going on in Beaufort. You look at Bluffton, May River. So we tapped into some competition, some non-region competition there. But yeah, it is, when you just look at the geography, it's not helpful. And having gone to the playoffs and seeing how all those other 7A regions have so much great soccer talent within a short area, when they're only traveling 30 minutes, hour at the most, to meet teams that are at the same level. I do feel like we're kind of on a little soccer island. As you can see, geography shows you the 7A, we're in geographical island. But when you talk about the non-region, when you looked at our actual, they have that measure of how competitive or how hard your schedule is. You could see that we I had a hard time with that. I'm working very hard this next season. I almost have my schedule done to where my competitive, I should be at least a higher level going into my non-region games.
Stephen Peterson, head coach of the boys side at Richmond Hill, hanging out with us for in-session postseason and getting ready for the 2023-24 season, because there really is no rest when it comes to prep. When it comes to the Hill and Savannah area and Bryan County and that area, how would you describe how the sport itself has grown from a competitive standpoint and from a participation standpoint in the time that you've been there at Richmond Hill?
So yeah, that's a great question. We're going. I think we're going in a good direction. And when you look at where Tormenta as a club's going, and how they've got their USL 1 team and 2 team academies and WUSL, there's I'm seeing the ability, and as we have more vertical progression in the area, I'm seeing that people are able, those kids, right, that are in 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, they're getting that development that you're wanting to see to play at that higher level. So I see that there's now kind of a throughput that I could see where we're going to be able to maintain a high level of soccer. And that's exciting. We still, when you look at our overall density of great players, we're still not where Atlanta is, or where any of those regions up in Atlanta are. But we're at least we're finding this talent, we're developing this talent. So now we're starting to see a little bit of a channel of great players that we can continue on. I will say, and I don't know how much up in Atlanta you got to deal with MLS next, but I will tell you that I had, my 5 best players weren't playing high school soccer. And so MLS Next is one of those things that did come with that. And I talked all the greatness of that, of where Tormenta is going in that higher level of competition, but then you might actually lose some of your great players. And so I don't know if they're dealing with that in Atlanta.
I know it's strictly with Atlanta United Academy, and there are some MLS Next outputs and things like that. But it's right now with Atlanta United and their academy with MLS Next Pro. That's where a lot of the focus is for United. But to your point, you see how Statesboro has grown as an entity. You see how Vidalia has grown as a soccer entity, especially on the girls' side when it comes to having prolific scorers that work their way into the ACC. And I think that you're a part of that growth as well because you add Statesboro, because it's not just Statesboro that's impacted. It's Millen, it's Bullock County, it's Chatham County, it's Vidalia down there in Toombs County with you with what you're doing there in the south of the Savannah area and everything there. So I think that you have a pocket that adds to another pocket that adds to more pockets and more growth and more growth. And I think that before you know it, you end up with areas and regions where it's continuing to grow in non-traditional areas. And I think that that's something that needs to be recognized as well. It's like in areas where you might have a high school that's just known for one sport, whether it's football, basketball, what have you. Now you're having these schools that are adding soccer that's a part of the growth of it when it comes to the fabric at Richmond Hill, I would say.
Yeah, and the other part that we have with Bryant County is we have Hyundai is building a $5 billion plant. So you're going to have a lot of growth in this area in the next 5 years too. So not only do we have a good solid program, but there's going to be more people living here, which then obviously gives you more ability to bring in. Obviously that pipeline is going to get even better. We are, I do think we're going to be unique too with South Bryan County in that there's no plans to split our high school. So, you look at every year, we're going to gain 200, 300 more kids. I think there's not going to be too many years down the road here. They're building a high school for 4,000 that we're going to be moving into in 2 years. And so I think it's going to make our unfortunately, I think we're going to be, we're going to stay at that highest level, and we're just going to be a lot bigger than any of the high schools in southern Georgia and coastal Georgia for sure. So it's going to be, that's a dynamic that I just wanted to kind of share with everybody that's just inevitable. And hopefully we can continue to improve along with that.
And at the same time, with the new round of reclassification, there won't be as many A's. So I think you'll be in the new Region 1 6A, or unless reclassification sits there and juggles things around, you'll still be Region 1, but you'll be Region 1 6A, and hopefully there'll be more schools where you won't be traveling as much, or if you do, they can bunch things up and make it more feasible in a non-revenue setting. What did you learn about yourself as a coach with this season, with all of the younger players that were working their way and coming through and getting the help from the seniors and having the season that you did in Region 1 7A? What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, well, a couple of things for sure. One is that you really have to force, those high schoolers, those seniors, and those leaders to take ownership. Because it doesn't matter how much you want something. It's not until they really stepped up and said, no, that's what we want. That's us. And so I felt like I was better at facilitating, and instead of doing that last year, I was all about trying to make it happen and do it myself. So I got better about stepping back a little bit and working with my captains and allowing them. Because what I've noticed is that those captains, especially when once they take the ownership, they really have a much more positive and more effective than you can be as one person, or as a group of coaches. So I think that's what I want to sustain for next year. I will say on a personal level, I need to get a lot better. Every coach has that dilemma of how much time do you put into the collective coaching versus the individual development. And so I as a personal goal, I know I can get a lot better with the personal development. And that's the piece that I need to work on in the off season, do better next year. So I'm giving both that collective guidance, and which I've gotten better at, but then stepping back and getting down into that individual and providing them that feedback on a more regular basis.
Stephen Peterson, the head coach at Richmond Hill, down there on the coast, wrapping up a season where you finish up losing to Lambert in the playoffs, wrapped up at 12-5-1, 6-2 in Region 1 7A. A lot of folks lost to Lambert, Coach. You had a fantastic season, great turnaround. Thanks for hanging out with us here off season as we do in session postseason. We'll be keeping an eye on things, and if you ever want to break any scheduling news, when everything is all laid out, if anything's going on down there at the Hill, you can always catch up with us here. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, thank you, sir. You have a great summer. Appreciate it.